From the century-old dry well in the village, a red wedding palanquin was pulled up, looking as if it had just been soaked in blood. The night the palanquin was retrieved, all the men in the village dreamt the same dream. In the dream, a bride in red went from house to house, asking, "Where is my groom?" I inherited my grandpa's paper effigy shop, and our ancestors left a rule. When the blood palanquin emerges from the well, a paper groom must be made for a ghost marriage, or great disaster will strike. As soon as I took out my tools, Village Chief Wang led men to my door, pounding on it. He warned me that this wedding palanquin could protect the village and bring prosperity for 3 generations. Anyone who dares to make a paper figure to disrupt the feng shui will have their blood used to consecrate the palanquin. "Chen Bi, you dare try to make a paper figure?" Village Chief Wang pointed directly at my face, spittle flying. "If you dare touch it, I'll have you lying in a coffin just like your grandpa." Behind him were several burly villagers, holding hoes and spades, surrounding my paper effigy shop. My parents died young, Grandpa raised me. Before he passed, he squeezed my hand tightly. He whispered, "Bai, remember, our Chen family's craft is to revere ghosts and spirits, to balance yin and yang, not to seek wealth for the living. That thing in the well, if it comes out, you must find a groom for it and send it away, or the entire village will be doomed." He didn't finish his sentence before taking his last breath. At the time, I just thought they were an old man's ramblings. I never imagined those words would come true. I looked at the villagers, their eyes clouded by greed, and felt a chill in my heart. "Village chief, ancestral rules cannot be broken. That thing in the palanquin is not benevolent. If it's not sent away, big trouble will come." Village Chief Wang gave a cold laugh and kicked my door. "Stop spouting nonsense. What good are your dog-awful rules compared to real money and gold? I'm telling you that blood palanquin is our village's god of wealth. Anyone who dares to cut off our path to wealth, I'll cut off their path to life first." His son, Wang Gergu, added fuel to the fire from the side. "Dad, why waste so many words on this brat? He's just jealous that our village is about to get rich. As I see it, tie him up, throw him into the well to sacrifice to the palanquin, and I guarantee the goddess of wealth will be even happier." The villagers chimed in, their eyes gleaming. It was as if I had become a stumbling block to their path to riches. I clutched the carving knife hidden in my sleeve. This paper effigy craft can not only create figures, but also deals with matters of blood. Just then, Fatty, my childhood best friend, pushed his way through the crowd. He anxiously pulled me back. "Bai, don't get angry. A wise man knows when to hold back." He turned, bowing and scraping to Village Chief Wang. "Village Chief, please calm down. Bai is just a blockhead. Let me talk some sense into him." Village Chief Wang shot me a disdainful glance. "I don't care if you talk sense into him or beat sense into him. I'm making it clear right here today, the blood palanquin will be worshipped in the ancestral hall. Anyone who dares to go near it will have their legs broken. Chen Bi, if you know what's good for you, obediently burn all your paper effigies and live a quiet life from now on. If you don't know what's good for you." He made a throat-slitting gesture. "Your blood will be used to consecrate the goddess of wealth." With that, he grandly led his men away. Fatty looked at me anxiously. "Bai, what do we do now? These people have gone completely mad." I looked towards the ancestral hall, which the villagers had marked with red cloth. Vaguely, I could make out the shape of the blood palanquin. The night wind blew past, and I seemed to hear a woman's weeping, fading in and out. I said in a low voice, "They've gone mad, but I can't. Tonight, I must create that paper groom." Fatty's face turned ashen with fear. "Bai, do you have a death wish? The village chief said anyone who goes near the ancestral hall will have their legs broken." "Who said I had to go to the ancestral hall?" From a corner, I pulled out an old, dusty wooden chest. I opened it. Inside was my grandpa's complete set of tools, along with a stack of yellowed paper. This craft has been passed down since my great-grandpa's generation. The bamboo used must be purple bamboo growing on the shaded side of the back mountain. The paper must be rice paper soaked in glutinous rice water. Most importantly, the bamboo strips used to make the life substitute paper figure must be soaked in human blood for 49 days. Grandpa said, "Only such a paper figure can connect with spirits. Only then can it deceive troublesome entities." I took out my tools and Fatty watched beside me, utterly terrified. "Bai, are you really going to do this? Otherwise what? Wait for all the men in the village to be charmed by that new bride?" My hands worked ceaselessly, sharpening bamboo, bending strips, building the skeleton. I hadn't forgotten a single thing Grandpa taught me. Seeing my determination, Fatty sighed and began to help me. Bye, why does it feel colder and colder in here? Fatty rubbed his arms, his teeth chattering. I also felt it clearly. It was a summer night, but the shop felt like an ice cellar. A cold draft seeped in through the door cracks. On the paper covering the window, a graceful red shadow was vaguely imprinted. A fleeting thought, she couldn't wait any longer. I sped up my hand movements, sweat like large beads rolling down my forehead and dripping onto the bamboo strips. Fatty was so scared he hid behind me, his voice trembling. Is she outside? I whispered sharply. Don't make a sound, keep your wits about you. I took a yellow talisman from my chest, bit my fingertip, drew a house-warding spell on it, and pasted it on the door. The cold outside the door seemed to be slightly blocked, but very quickly, a piercing, scratching sound erupted from the door. A scraping, creaking sound, like a woman's fingernails slowly scratching at my heart and Fatty's. Fatty was almost in tears. Bye, she's almost in? Veins bulged on my forehead. The carving knife in my hand rotated rapidly as I began to draw the paper figure's face. This was the most crucial step. The proportions of the facial features, the expression, all determined whether this paper figure could truly mimic a living person. Just as I was about to add the final touch, the eyes, Wang Ergu's curses suddenly rang out from outside the door. Chen Bi, you coward, get out here now. With a loud bang, the yellow talisman I had just pasted, along with half the door, was kicked open from the outside. Wang Ergu, along with several drunken men, stormed in. With a single glance, he saw the unfinished paper figure in front of me and immediately flew into a rage. Well, Chen Bi. How dare you secretly make this thing behind our backs to disrupt the feng shui? He lunged forward and kicked the paper figure to the ground. Smash it. Stop, my eyes wanted to split open. With one hand, I pushed Wang Ergu away, bringing the fallen paper figure behind me to protect it. The paper figure's skeleton was complete, only lacking the final step of opening the face and dotting the eyes. Kicked like that, a large section collapsed. Wang Ergu staggered from my shove, his face purple with rage. You dare push me? Fueled by alcohol, he swung his fist straight at my face. Fatty tried to intervene, but was shoved aside by one of Wang Ergu's companions. I dodged the blow, a towering rage burning within me. These fools had no idea what they were doing. Wang Ergu, do you realize what a great disaster you've caused? I caused disaster? I think you're cutting off our entire village's path to wealth. Wang Ergu sneered, picking up a wooden stick from the ground. Today, I'll smash this unlucky thing first, then tie you up and drag you to the ancestral hall to apologize to the goddess of wealth. With that, he swung the stick towards the paper figure. I didn't have time to think. I could only use my arm to block. Crack! A sharp sound and intense pain shot through my arm. My bone seems to have cracked. Fatty cried out in horror. Bye! Seeing my blood, Wang Ergu didn't stop. Instead, he became even more excited. Still daring to block, beat him until he can't do it anymore. Several men rushed forward, punching and kicking me relentlessly. I desperately protected the paper figure beneath me, letting their fists rain down on my back. Just as I was about to give up, a woman's shriek suddenly came from outside the door. Ah! This was followed by the terrified cries of the villagers. Run! The blood palanquin in the ancestral hall is moving. Wang Ergu and his men froze, turning their heads to look outside. Towards the ancestral hall, a thick red mist had risen at some unknown point, painting the entire night sky a ghastly blood red. A gust of yin wind blew through, carrying paper money and dust, slapping everyone's faces. In the wind, a woman's laughter was intertwined, sounding like weeping and lamenting. My groom, where are you? I've come to find you. That voice seemed to whisper right beside their ears. Wang Ergu and his companions were so scared that their drunkenness completely faded. Their calves trembled. It's the goddess of wealth. I seized the opportunity to scramble up, suppressing the pain, and supported the damaged paper figure. Now you're scared, aren't you? I'm telling you, if she's not sent away, someone in this village will die tonight. No sooner had I finished speaking than a tragic shriek echoed from the village. Help! Elder Wang has been dragged away by something. It was Elder Wang, the lonely old man at the west end of the village. Everyone was stunned. Wang Ergu looked towards the red mist in the direction of the ancestral hall, then at me. For the first time, fear showed on his face. Chen Bi, you quickly think of something. I gave a cold laugh. Just now you wanted to smash my things and break my legs, didn't you? Now you're begging me? Village Chief Wang also rushed over with his men. He saw the chaotic scene in my shop, his face turning pale. Chen Bi, this is no time for settling scores. Saving lives is more important. As long as you can resolve this, I'll give you whatever you want. I looked at the villagers who moments ago wanted me dead, now with pleading expressions. I felt no satisfaction, only endless sadness. You want to save people? Fine. I pointed to the damaged paper figure. But it's broken. There's no time to make a new one. Now there's only one way. My gaze swept over all the men there, finally settling on Wang. We need a living man, dressed in wedding attire, to sit in that palanquin. Using the vital energy of a living person, he can temporarily suppress her. As these words were spoken, the entire place fell silent. The faces of all the men instantly turned whiter than paper. A living person sitting in that palanquin wouldn't be for a ghost marriage, it would be a death sentence. Wang was so terrified he collapsed to the ground, a foul smell emanating from his crotch. No, not me, I don't want to go. Village Chief Wang's expression changed drastically. He quickly shielded his son behind him. Chen Bi, what do you mean? You want my son to die? I looked at him, my gaze icy. Who led the charge to smash my paper figure just now? Who cut off our only path to survival? Whoever causes the trouble must bear the consequences. That is justice. The villagers began to whisper. Their gazes at Wang, which had been complicit moments ago, turned into loathing and fear. That's right, it's all Wang's fault. If he hadn't gotten drunk and caused trouble, the paper figure would have been finished long ago. Yeah, he caused this mess himself. Why should the whole village be buried with him? Village Chief, you can't play favorites. When the wall falls, everyone pushes it down. The selfishness and ingratitude of human nature were thoroughly exposed at this moment. Village Chief Wang trembled with rage, pointing at the villagers and scolding, "You ungrateful wretches! Have you forgotten who led you to worship the goddess of wealth?" But now the goddess of wealth had turned into the king of hell demanding lives, and no one believed him anymore. Seeing the villagers' emotions about to spiral out of control, I had to add more fuel to the fire. Time is running out. Elder Wang is likely beyond saving, whose next depends on her mood. She keeps asking, "Where's my groom? Who do you think she'd like best as a groom?" I deliberately glanced towards Wang. Young, full of vigor, with ample vital energy, a perfect target. Wang completely broke down, clinging to his father's leg and weeping loudly. "Dad, save me. I don't want to die." Village Chief Wang's aged face was as red as a pig's liver. He looked at his son, then at the staring villagers, and finally turned his eyes to me with a hint of pleading. "Chen Bi, I beg you, is there really no other way? I'll give you money, lots of money." I shook my head. A life is not something that can be bought with money. At this moment, I suddenly felt a wave of dizziness. The wound on my arm burned. The blood loss, coupled with extreme mental exhaustion, made me feel like I couldn't stand much longer. I leaned against the doorframe, my vision blurring. In my daze, I seemed to see that red figure again. She stood outside the crowd, silently watching me. This time, she didn't ask, "Where is my groom?" She just looked at me, a grotesque smile seemingly playing on her lips. Then my vision went black and I completely lost consciousness. When I woke again, I found myself in my bed at home. Fatty was sitting by my side. Seeing me awake, he let out a sigh of relief. "Bi, you're finally awake. I was scared to death." I tried to sit up. My arm was roughly bandaged. "What happened after? Did they send Wang away?" Fatty shook his head, his expression strange. "No. After you fainted, the red mist in the ancestral hall dissipated on its own." I was stunned. Dissipated? Yes, just like that. Inexplicably, the wind stopped blowing. The woman's voice also vanished. "Everyone said the goddess of wealth had shown mercy, seeing you injured trying to save people, so she temporarily withdrew." I frowned, always feeling that things weren't that simple. That thing in the blood palanquin was definitely not benevolent. How could it withdraw just because I was injured? "Where's the village chief and his men?" "The village chief brought you back and even invited a doctor from town to bandage you," he said. "He said he was wrong before, and he won't stop you from making paper figures anymore. He wants you to recover well and finish the paper groom quickly." Such a rapid change in attitude. An abnormality must hide something monstrous. I closed my eyes, trying to recall the last scene before I fainted. That red-clad bride. She stood outside the crowd, watching me, smiling. Wait, her face before I fainted, I think I saw her face clearly. That face, why was it so familiar? An absurd and terrifying thought struck me like lightning. I suddenly opened my eyes and grabbed Fatty. Fatty, where's Grandpa's photo? Fatty was startled and pointed to the main hall. I didn't even put on my shoes. I rushed into the main hall and looked up at the black and white photo on the wall. In the photo, Grandpa's face was weathered. I stared at his facial features, then I felt as if all my strength was drained and I collapsed to the floor. I finally understood. I finally understood why the blood palanquin appeared. Our Chen family had to make a paper groom for a ghost marriage. I finally understood why before I fainted that red-clad bride smiled at me. Because that face, the face hidden behind the blood-colored veil, except for the lack of a beard, its features were 7 parts similar to Grandpa's in the photo. No, not just like Grandpa, but like the men of our Chen family. That face was clearly a female version of me. The ancestral rule wasn't to save the village. It was to save us, the descendants of the Chen family. The groom that bride wanted to find was never any man in the village. She wanted to find me. Or rather, the men of the Chen family. Village Chief Wang didn't want to stop me from disrupting feng shui, he wanted to leverage the villagers. He wanted the bride in the blood palanquin to not find a paper groom, then in her anger she would come for me, a man of the Chen bloodline, to take me as her groom. That way, with my death, the blood palanquin's contract would be fulfilled, and their village could enjoy 3 generations of prosperity and peace. What a vicious scheme. A coldness shot from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. The blood in my veins seemed to freeze. It turned out I wasn't the savior. I was the sacrifice. Fatty saw my pale face, utterly terrified. Bi, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Isn't it just a slight resemblance? Maybe it's a coincidence. Coincidence? How many coincidences can there be in this world? Grandpa's last unfinished words before he died now echoed in my mind. If not, the entire village will be doomed. I had always thought it meant the blood palanquin would slaughter the entire village. Now I understood Grandpa's meaning. If our Chen family didn't actively offer a paper groom, the blood palanquin bride would personally come to take a real groom. And once the Chen family bloodline was broken, this ancestral craft used to suppress the blood palanquin would also be severed. At that point, no one would be able to control her, and the entire village would truly be doomed. Village Chief Wang and these fools, they thought sacrificing just me could buy them 3 generations of prosperity. They had no idea they were cutting off the last straw of salvation, hanging over their own heads. No, I can't sit here and wait to die. I struggled to stand up, the intense pain in my arm making my mind even clearer. Fatty, help me back to my room. Back in my room, I rummaged through everything, finally finding another notebook Grandpa had left in a secret compartment beneath the bedboards. This black notebook felt icy to the touch. I opened the first page. A line of blood-red text immediately caught my eye. The Chen bloodline, both a lock and a key. My heart trembled. I continued to read. The notebook no longer contained ordinary papermaking techniques, but secret, almost forbidden arts. One page detailed the origin of the blood palanquin bride. She was not a lone ghost or wild spirit, but an ancestor of our Chen family. 100 years ago, to obtain a unique paper crafting technique, unparalleled in the world, an ancestor made a blood pact with an unknown entity. The Chen family gained the craft, and the price was that in each generation, a daughter had to be sacrificed, sinking to the bottom of the well, becoming a spirit guardian of this technique. But by my great-grandpa's generation, he couldn't bear it anymore. He didn't want to sacrifice his own daughter, so he devised a compromise. He created a lifelike paper bride, using his own bloodline as a guide to imbue her with spirit, sending her down the well instead of his daughter. This paper bride was the blood palanquin bride. She possessed the aura of the Chen family bloodline, but she had no true life. She was a contradictory existence, both a protector and a prisoner. She yearned to become a real human, yearned for a true home. Therefore, she needed a groom who also carried the Chen family bloodline. The notebook stated that a ghost marriage with a paper groom could appease her for 100 years. After 100 years, she would reappear, demanding a new groom. I looked at the notebook, my hands and feet turning cold. Counting the time since the blood palanquin last appeared, it was exactly 100 years. So her target this time, from the very beginning, was me. Village Chief Wang and his men were just pawns, manipulated by her to drive me into a corner. Bi, what does this say? Fatty leaned in and asked. I closed the notebook, a flicker of determination in my eyes. It writes about our path to survival. I looked out the window, dawn was breaking. "Fatty, help me with something. Find a way to get Wang Ergu's birth information and also the underwear he wore when he was 3 years old." Fatty was dumbfounded. "Huh, what do you need that for? And it has to be from when he was 3?" I patted the black notebook beside me, a cold smile playing on my lips. "Since they want me as a groom, I'll give them a real, genuine groom. I will create a substitute and neatly marry this union off to the Wang family." Although Fatty didn't understand what I intended, seeing my serious expression, he still nodded. "All right, Bai, I'll go right away. But that Wang Ergu is as cunning as a monkey. His birth info is easy to ask for, but 3-year-old underwear is hard to get, isn't it?" I pulled a few large bills from my pocket and shoved them into his hand. His mom always gets nostalgic. "Go to their house and hint that someone's collecting old children's clothes for charity at a high price." Fatty's eyes lit up. "Brilliant, Bai. That's a clever trick." After Fatty left, I began preparing to make the substitute paper figure. This was entirely different from an ordinary paper figure. The black notebook recorded that this technique was called stealing the dragon, substituting the phoenix, and it was extremely dangerous. Not only did it have to resemble the target in form, but also in spirit. Most importantly, it had to deceive the blood palanquin bride's perception. The materials used were also more stringent. The bamboo had to be old bamboo from a graveyard, and the paper had to be leftover coffin lining paper from a coffin shop. The ink had to be crow's blood mixed with soot from an incense burner. For an ordinary person, these things would make their hair stand on end, but for me, a paper craftsman, it was as easy as turning my hand. Suppressing the pain in my arm, I went to the graveyard at the west end of the village. The graveyard here, where only lonely elders without children were buried, had the heaviest yin energy. I chose the darkest clump of bamboo, where the nodes seemed to have formed a layer of frost, and cut it down. Next, I went to the only coffin shop in town. The owner, an old friend of my grandpa, listened to my intentions. Though his face turned pale, he still gave me the best lining paper. As for crow's blood, I looked up at the crow's nest under my eaves. That old crow had lived there since I was a child. It was very perceptive. I walked to the base of the tree, looked up at it, and it tilted its head, looking at me with its beady black eyes. I sighed. "Brother Crow, lend me a few drops of blood to save a life. I will surely repay you later." With that, I picked up a small stone from the ground, flicked my wrist, and the stone precisely hit the old crow's claw. A single drop of fresh red blood fell perfectly into the bowl I had prepared. The old crow let out a cry, flapped its wings, and flew away, as if scolding me. The materials were ready. I just waited for Fatty to bring Wang Ergu's items back. In the afternoon, Fatty returned beaming. He not only obtained Wang Ergu's birth information, but also managed to extract a faded silk bib from Wang Ergu's mother. "Bai, you're a genius." As soon as I mentioned buying old items at a high price, his mom immediately rummaged through her entire closet and found it, repeatedly asking me, "Can this thing really be sold for money?" I took the bib. A faint milky smell mixed with the scent of old, long-stored items hit my nose. "Very good. With this, we have an anchor." I sent Fatty out of the house and locked the door. The next task required absolute privacy. I wrote Wang Ergu's birth information on yellow paper, and along with the silk bib, burned it to ash, mixing it into the ink made from crow's blood. Then I began my work. This time, I was making not a groom, but a paper bride, wearing a red wedding gown and a flowing veil. Bamboo for the bones, paper for the flesh. I concentrated with utmost intensity. Every knife stroke, every brush stroke, contained the secret arts from the black notebook. As the paper figure gradually took shape, the yin energy in the house grew heavier and heavier. I could even feel a pair of eyes secretly watching me. It was her, the blood palanquin bride. She seemed to have realized something, probing me. I sneered inwardly, my hands not revealing any flaws in their movements. "Don't you want a groom? I'll make you a rival, steal the one you desire, and see if you panic." When the final stroke was laid down, the paper bride's features were completely finished. Although veiled, her face wasn't visible, but her figure and posture exuded an indescribable enchanting aura. I bit my fingertip, squeezed out a drop of blood, and dabbed it onto the center of the paper bride's forehead. "With the Chen family blood, I create a spirit for you. From now on, you are not a lone ghost, not a wild spirit. Your groom is Wang Ergu of the Wang family. Go find your groom, and don't bother me anymore." As soon as the words left my lips, the paper bride seemed to come alive. Although she stood still, I could feel a powerful wave of resentment radiating from her, surging directly towards the ancestral hall. "It's done," I let out a sigh of relief, collapsing onto the floor. "Now, let's just wait for the show." Night fell, the entire village was eerily silent. Houses were tightly shut, not even a dog dared to bark. Everyone knew tonight was crucial. Village Chief Wang sent men to guard my door, ostensibly for protection but in reality to monitor me. I freed from my task, locked the door, and sat quietly inside, waiting. Fatty lingered, refusing to leave. He was scared. "Bi, will your trick really work? We're playing mind games with a ghost. What if she doesn't fall for it? We'll both be finished." I poured myself a cup of tea and took a sip. "Don't worry. A woman's heart is as unfathomable as the ocean, but whether human or ghost, all women are the same. She might not care about a man who doesn't belong to her, but she absolutely cannot tolerate another woman trying to steal the man she fancies." Fatty nodded as if he understood. Just after midnight, that familiar yin wind rose again without warning. In the wind, there was a woman's weeping, but this time it wasn't mournful. It was filled with fury and jealousy. "Who is it? Who dares to steal my groom?" The villagers guarding my door huddled together in fear, trembling violently. Immediately after, a great red light flared from the ancestral hall, and a surge of resentment, stronger than ever before, shot straight into the sky. Boom. The ancestral hall door seemed to be struck by an invisible force and burst open. The villagers shrieked in terror and scattered. I went to the window, opened a crack, and looked out. The blood-red palanquin was flying out of the ancestral hall by itself again. The 4 palanquin bearers were 4 hazy figures condensed from black mist. The blood palanquin hovered in the air, its curtains swaying without wind, revealing the empty seat inside. It circled above the village, as if searching for something. Very quickly, it seemed to lock onto a target. The palanquin suddenly turned and flew rapidly in one direction. That direction was Village Chief Wang's house. "The show's beginning," I said softly. Fatty also peered out the window, nervously swallowing. Is she really going for Wang Ergu?" I shook my head. "She's not going for Wang Ergu. She's going to claim the Wang family's groom." At this moment, the Wang family home was in utter chaos. Village Chief Wang and his wife were desperately blocking the door with their bodies, their faces devoid of blood. "Ergu, quickly, escape through the back window, run as far as you can." Wang Ergu had long since lost his wits, scrambling on all fours towards the backyard. But just as he reached the back window, before he could even climb out, bang, the window and its frame shattered simultaneously. A wisp of red smoke swirled in, forming a woman's hand that grabbed Wang Ergu's ankle. "Groom, I've found you." A chilling voice echoed in Wang Ergu's ear. Wang Ergu let out an inhuman shriek, forcibly dragged out of the window. "Dad, Mom, save me." Village Chief Wang and his wife watched helplessly as their son was dragged away, their hearts breaking. "Let my son go." Village Chief Wang grabbed a firewood knife and charged out frantically, but as soon as he reached the courtyard, he was struck by an invisible force, sent flying, and landed heavily on the ground. He spat blood. The blood palanquin slowly descended in the middle of the courtyard. Its curtains opened, and a pale white hand reached out, pulling Wang Ergu inside. "No!" Village Chief Wang let out a desperate roar. Just as the palanquin curtains were about to close, a sudden anomaly occurred. A ghostly white figure descended from the sky, landing precisely in front of the blood palanquin. The white figure was dressed in funerary attire, slender and frail. It was clearly a paper figure. No, not just a paper figure, it was the substitute bride I had made. She had apparently made her way here on her own. She stood silently before the blood palanquin. Although she had no facial features, she exuded an overwhelming aura of resentment. The blood palanquin bride inside the palanquin also seemed stunned. 2 brides, one blood red, one pallid white, faced each other in the Wang family courtyard. The air seemed to freeze, red and white, creating a powerful visual contrast. One was the original, one was the substitute. One came to find a faithless groom, one came to claim her future husband. This play was even more spectacular than I had imagined. Fatty watched beside me, utterly bewildered. "Bi, has this thing you made become sentient?" I said nothing, only watched the activity in the courtyard intently. From the blood palanquin came an angry, questioning voice. "Who are you?" My substitute paper bride did not answer. She simply raised a paper hand and pointed at the blood palanquin. The meaning was clear. "The person in that palanquin is mine. Get lost." The blood palanquin bride was completely enraged. Seeking death, a powerful gust of yin wind swept out from the palanquin, transforming into countless sharp claws that lunged towards the substitute paper bride. The substitute paper bride did not dodge. Just as the claws were about to reach her, a faint blood-red glow suddenly flashed around her. It was the drop of blood I had dabbed onto her forehead. The Chen family bloodline held a natural suppressive power over the blood palanquin bride. Upon contact with the blood-red glow, the yin wind claws emitted a sizzling sound like melting ice, shattering in an instant. The blood palanquin bride let out a small gasp of surprise. She seemed not to have expected this rival, who appeared from nowhere, to possess power from the same origin as herself. She began to reevaluate this white-clad paper figure. Meanwhile, the paper figure I created also began new movements. It slowly raised its hand and lifted its red veil. Although that face was just a blank white paper, without features, everyone there, including me and the blood palanquin bride, clearly saw its face. It was Wang Ergu's face, or more precisely, a female version of Wang Ergu's face. This was a technique called consciousness-drawn image, one of the most bizarre spells in the dark arts. Using the target's personal belongings and birth information as a guide, it carves the target's image and soul onto the paper figure. Thus, in the eyes of a spirit entity, this paper figure is equivalent to the target itself. The blood palanquin bride was completely dumbfounded. The groom she wanted to find was clearly Chen Bi. Why was Wang Ergu captured in the palanquin? Why did a female version of Wang Ergu appear outside, claiming the person in the palanquin was hers? This relationship was too chaotic. She felt her demonic mind was a bit overwhelmed. While she was still bewildered, my substitute bride moved. Step by step, she advanced towards the blood palanquin. With each step, the resentment on her grew heavier. That source of resentment was no longer aimed at the blood palanquin bride, but at Wang Ergu in the palanquin, like a scorned wife confronting her husband. "Why did you marry her? Have you forgotten our vows, you faithless man?" She let out a silent wail, but this sound clearly echoed in everyone's minds. Wang Ergu, who had originally fainted from fear in the palanquin, slowly regained consciousness as this wave of resentment rushed into him. He groggily opened his eyes and saw a woman in white weeping at him. And that woman's face looked exactly like his. Wang Ergu's mind reeled. He blurted out, "Sis, my sister, didn't you die long ago?" The scene once again fell into a deathly silence. Even the blood palanquin bride forgot her anger. I clutched my forehead, nearly losing my balance. What a blunder. I calculated 1,000 things, 10,000 things, but never that Wang Ergu had a younger sister who died young. It's over. The snatching the groom drama instantly turned into a chaotic family reunion. The plot had completely gone off the rails. Village Chief Wang, Wang Ergu's father, had also crawled up from the ground by now. He heard his son's nonsensical words, first stunned, then as if remembering something, his expression changed drastically. "Ergu, don't talk nonsense. Where would you get a sister?" Wang Ergu, as if possessed, pointed at the white-clad paper figure. "It's her. I remember when I was little, I fell into the river and she's the one who pushed me up. Then she sank herself." "Dad, you even lied to me, saying I didn't have a sister." Village Chief Wang trembled all over as if struck by lightning, his lips quivering, unable to utter a single word. A thought suddenly flashed in my mind. Oh no, this might not be Wang Ergu spouting nonsense. The substitute paper figure I created, by integrating Wang Ergu's birth information and personal item, inadvertently linked to a forgotten segment of karma. The spirit of that short-lived younger sister might have always been clinging to Wang Ergu. Now, stimulated by my paper figure, she directly attached herself to it. This is troublesome. Originally, I wanted to let the two brides fight it out, while I reaped the benefits. Now, one has turned into a real sister coming for revenge. The nature of the situation had completely changed. The blood palanquin bride also regained her composure. Even if she didn't understand this complicated family relationship, she understood one thing. It seemed she had captured the wrong person. The groom she wanted to find was Chen Bi, the one with the familiar aura, not Wang Ergu in front of her, who was now entangled with his own sister's spirit demanding his life. A furious rage at being tricked immediately surged within her. The blood palanquin shook violently, its curtains flew open, and a red shadow flew out from within. This time she wore no veil. A face 7 parts similar to mine but more refined and paler revealed itself in the air. Her gaze swept past everyone, pierced through the walls, and locked onto me. "Chen Bi," she ground out each word, her voice filled with fury at being played with. "You." My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. I've overdone it. Fatty's face turned green with fear. He clung tightly to my leg. "Bi, she saw through it. She's coming for you." I took a deep breath and pushed Fatty away. Things had come to this, there was no escaping now. I pushed open the door and stepped out, meeting the horrified, bewildered gazes of the entire village, as well as Village Chief Wang's venomous stare. I walked step by step to the center of the courtyard. I looked at the blood palanquin bride's face, so strikingly similar to mine, my feelings complex. What was this? Facing myself? "You finally decided to come out." The blood palanquin bride looked at me coldly. "You truly made a fool of me." I spread my hands, revealing a wry smile. "Pot calling the kettle black, haven't you also caused me much misery? Wasn't my shop smashed? Wasn't my arm broken?" The blood palanquin bride frowned. "Their foolishness, what does it have to do with me? You, as a descendant of the Chen family, seeing me appear, didn't think to treat me with proper ceremony, to choose a suitable groom for me. Instead, you used such base tricks to play with me. Today, I will certainly not spare you." As she spoke, she made a move to strike. "Wait," I shouted loudly. "Are you being reasonable? What do you mean choose a suitable groom for you? Who do you want as your husband? Isn't it clear in your heart?" I pointed at her, then at myself. "We grew up looking exactly alike. Tell me, where can I find you a groom who isn't related by blood but looks exactly like you? You're not making it hard for me, you're making it hard for yourself." The blood palanquin bride was stumped by my words. It seemed she had never considered the problem from this angle. "That's right, I was formed from the Chen family bloodline, so of course, I bear the facial characteristics of the Chen family. I specifically named a descendant of the Chen family to be my groom, so wouldn't the groom look like my sibling? How? How can we get married then? That feels a bit strange." Just as the blood palanquin bride was steeped in self-doubt, the battle on the other side also changed. Wang Ergu's sister, possessing the paper figure, grew heavier with resentment. She didn't care about the blood palanquin bride, nor did she care about Chen Bi. Today, she had only one goal: to take away her brother, who had watched her die without saving her. "Brother, come down here and join me. It's very cold down in the water." She extended her paper hand to grab Wang Ergu, who was lying on the ground. Wang Ergu was so scared he peed himself, scrambling and crawling behind his father, Village Chief Wang. Village Chief Wang looked at the daughter who was both familiar and strange before his eyes, tears streaming down his face. With a thud, he knelt. "Daughter, your father wronged you. That year, you and Ergu both fell into the water, and I could only save one person. Father, I chose to save your brother. If you want revenge, come for me, don't make it hard for your brother." A scene of 100 ghosts walking at night had been reversed into a tragic family drama of ethics. I looked at this chaotic scene, my head feeling like it would explode. Enough! The blood palanquin bride finally broke free from the ethical entanglement. She felt she had been played twice, once by me and once by the Wang family's pathetic drama. She was the dignified master of the blood palanquin, a spirit guardian for 100 years. Did she have no reputation to uphold? A terrifying aura erupted from her. Today, no one will live in peace. She swung both hands, and 2 streams of red mist shot towards me and Village Chief Wang. "Wait," I interrupted her once again. "Sister, please calm down, let's put things into perspective." I pointed at the Wang father and son and the white-clad paper figure. "That side is an internal family conflict, falling under the jurisdiction of folk mediation. It doesn't concern you much. Our side is the main issue." I looked at the blood palanquin bride with a sincerity I had never shown before. "You appeared simply because you wanted a home, right?" The blood palanquin bride's face was cold. She said nothing, tacitly acknowledging it. "You want to find a groom to have a ghost marriage and thus settle down peacefully, no longer having to stay in that dilapidated well, right?" She still said nothing. "But have you thought about what happens after marriage?" I slowly advised. "You are a spirit, he is a living person. Does our situation fall under unrequited love between human and ghost, or human and spirit? Furthermore, you have no household registration, no ID card. If you have children later, will they be legitimate or illegitimate? Will they be able to school, to take college entrance exams? Most importantly, would our marriage be considered incestuous?" Fatty behind me squirmed, muttering softly. "Is Bi crazy? He's starting to talk about household registration with a female ghost. The blood palanquin bride was also dazed by my barrage of questions. She was an old maid who had been in the well for 100 years. How could she have thought of so much? She only knew that the 100-year term was up, and she had to go out and find a husband. This was a command deeply ingrained in her core programming. As for life after marriage, children going to school, what the hell were these things? Seeing her waver, I quickly pressed my advantage. So you see, marriage is a very troublesome affair. It's full of the mundane trivialities of daily life, completely unsuitable for a celestial maiden like yourself, unblemished by worldly dust. What you truly desire isn't the tomb of marriage, but a glorious and passionate love, right? The blood palanquin bride unconsciously nodded. It seems that's the principle. What's the most important thing in love? I asked. Is what? She asked blankly. It's fulfillment, I declared boldly. Look over there, I pointed towards the Wang siblings. What a moving sibling bond. Ah no, what a tragic love story. A sister died saving her brother, transforming into a water spirit. 100 years later, she returns just to reunite with her beloved. And the brother, though he clings to life and fears death, deep down still loves his sister. Wang Ergu listened, utterly bewildered. That's not me. Don't talk nonsense, I ignored him. I continued, speaking passionately to the blood palanquin bride. And you, beautiful blood palanquin bride, you are the one who holds their fate. You can choose to be ruthless, to tear them apart, making them separated by yin and yang, regretting it for a lifetime. Or you can choose to perform a good deed, spare their lives, and create a legend of human and ghost love. When you see them happily living together, wouldn't you feel joy? This is expansive love, this is vision. I spoke a long string of inspiring, moving words. Fatty behind me was crying, wiping away tears and applauding. Well said, Bai. Not becoming a multi-level marketer is a waste of your talent. The blood palanquin bride was thoroughly confused by me. She looked at the weeping, white-clad paper figure, then at Wang Ergu, who was so scared he was about to pee his pants. Although these two didn't look like a match in any way, this story did sound moving. She hesitated. At this very moment, Village Chief Wang, who had been kneeling on the ground all this time, suddenly sprang up. In his hand, a peach-wood sword stained with black dog's blood appeared from nowhere, and he savagely thrust it towards the white-clad paper figure possessing his daughter's soul. Demon, don't you dare harm my son? He wanted to personally shatter his own daughter's soul. No, I and the blood palanquin bride cried out simultaneously, but it was too late. Village Chief Wang's sword strike was swift and vicious, full of resolve. He understood very well that as long as his daughter's soul vanished, his son would be safe. As for his daughter's life or death, 100 years ago, he could abandon her once. 100 years later, he could abandon her a second time. But just as the peach wood sword was about to strike the paper figure, it stopped. A pale white hand grabbed the sword tip. It was the blood palanquin bride. She had intervened. She didn't even know why she had done it. Perhaps she had been brainwashed by my absurd fulfillment logic. Or perhaps from that white-clad paper figure she saw her former self, pitiful beings whose fates were not their own. Get lost! Village Chief Wang, his face ferocious, tried to pull his sword back. The blood palanquin bride's eyes turned cold. Crack! The hard peach-wood sword in her hand shattered into pieces. Village Chief Wang was sent flying by an immense force, crashing to the ground again. This time, he directly fell unconscious. The blood palanquin bride looked at Village Chief Wang on the ground, a flicker of disgust in her eyes. Then she turned to look at the trembling, white-clad paper figure, her expression complex. The spirit within the white-clad paper figure seemed to sense her goodwill. The resentment on it dissipated considerably. She gracefully bowed to the blood palanquin bride, as if in thanks. The blood palanquin bride sighed, waved her hand, and a beam of red light enveloped the white-clad paper figure and Wang Ergu on the ground. All right then, if you two have such deep sibling affection. She paused, as if feeling the word wasn't quite right but couldn't think of another. In short, I will grant you your wish. The red light flashed, and Wang Ergu and the white-clad paper figure vanished from the courtyard. I was stunned. Sister, where did you take them? I took them to where they belong, the blood palanquin bride said calmly. There is no separation of life and death. They can be together forever. My eyelids twitched. It sounded suspiciously like a form of eternal non-reincarnation. But never mind. At least the disaster that was Wang Ergu was resolved. Now, only I, Fatty, the blood palanquin bride, along with the unconscious village chief Wang and the stunned villagers, remained in the courtyard. The blood palanquin bride turned to look at me again, her gaze resuming its icy coldness. His matter is resolved. Now it's time to settle ours. My heart tensed. What matter do we still have? I helped you resolve a family dispute. Aren't you going to give me a commendation? Why are you still trying to cause me trouble? The blood palanquin bride gave a cold laugh. Don't play word games with me. Your Chen family owes me, and today you will pay. I don't need your dog-awful love or fulfillment. I just need a result. She raised her finger and pointed at me. Either you come with me, or... She then pointed at the blood palanquin hovering in midair. You make me an exact replica, and I'll take that. I was immediately put in a difficult spot. Going with her was definitely not an option, making another blood palanquin. I couldn't truly make a wedding palanquin, but I could offer you a place even better than a wedding palanquin. The blood palanquin bride looked incredulous. Oh, tell me more. I cleared my throat, pointing at her, then at myself. Look, you and I are originally from the same source. Your existence is to protect our Chen family's papercrafting legacy, isn't it? She nodded. Then isn't our Chen family's paper effigy shop the best home for you? Think about it, you'd be here. Every day I'd burn 3 incense sticks for you. On festivals, I'd burn paper ingots, paper phones, paper cars for you. LV, Hermes, what do you want? I'll make it for you. You wouldn't have to stay at the gloomy, damp bottom of the well anymore, nor would you have to bother with any dog-awful groom. You would be the mistress of this house. And I'd be your housekeeper, your servant, your little brother. I spoke with increasing enthusiasm. We'd form a powerful alliance. From now on, wouldn't all the yin and yang affairs in this whole region be decided by us 2 siblings? By then, you'd be the big sister, I'd be your little brother. We'd open a blood palanquin made in yin-yang affairs consulting company, guaranteed to have so much work you'd be tired, and money flowing in like a river. Isn't this infinitely better than you getting married? Fatty beside me was completely petrified. He felt that I wasn't just crazy, but seriously ill. I was trying to entice a female ghost into a business partnership. The blood palanquin bride was also dazed by my outlandish idea. She looked at me, her eyes shifting unpredictably. Be the big sister, open a company. This proposal actually sounds quite appealing. Ultimately, the blood palanquin bride accepted my proposal. Of course, the process wasn't that smooth. She conducted a background check and feasibility assessment for a full hour. This included, but was not limited to, my asset status, professional capabilities, development prospects, and loyalty. Finally, after I signed a series of unequal terms and promised to transfer 51% of the paper effigy shop's shares to her, she reluctantly agreed to join. The blood palanquin was retracted by her, transforming into a thumb-sized red jade pendant hanging around my neck. She said, "This is the office key, also a staff monitoring device." Village Chief Wang woke up to find his son missing and immediately went mad. All day, he rambled in the village about, my son, my son." He told everyone he met that I had harmed him. But the villagers had witnessed everything last night. No one pitied him. On the contrary, they felt he deserved it. Not long after, he was investigated for embezzling village funds to buy peace talismans for his son. Despite being useless, he ended up in jail. The village returned to peace. That century-old dry well, I had people completely fill it with stones. As for the illusory 3 generations of wealth, it vanished like smoke when the blood palanquin came ashore. The village was still the poor village it was, but the villagers' hearts were more at ease. My paper effigy shop reopened, only the scope of business had expanded significantly. Fatty became my first employee, also serving as the marketing department director. The blood palanquin bride, my partner, codenamed Sister Hong, became the technical director and risk control expert. Normally, she resided in a luxurious 3-story paper villa I made for her inside the shop. It was fully equipped with amenities, and the Wi-Fi was strong. She quickly became addicted to human TV dramas, especially enjoying domineering CEO shows. This directly led to our corporate culture becoming a bit peculiar. For instance, one time, a neighbor's house was troubled by a mouse spirit and invited us to handle it. As I took out my tools to prepare for work, Sister Hong, wearing a small paper suit I made for her, flew out from the pendant. She crossed her arms, tilted her face up to the ceiling at a 45-degree angle, and spoke to the mouse spirit in a cold voice. Man, you have successfully captured my attention. I'll give you two choices. Either submit to me and become my pet, or I will make your name disappear from this land. The mouse spirit was so terrified it frothed at the mouth on the spot, signed a lifelong employment contract, and became our company's mascot. Another example, a young couple was arguing. The girl suspected her boyfriend was cheating and asked us to investigate. Sister Hong directly entered the boyfriend's phone. Within a day, she collected enough ambiguous chat history with 7 or 8 girls, even creating a PPT with a detailed SWOT analysis. Finally, in the summary, she said, "According to my data model, this man is not worthy of you. Woman, you must remember that if you give up one ugly tree, you will gain an entire forest." The girl, enlightened, broke up with him on the spot and gave us an embroidered plaque that read, "Beacon of emotional guidance, friend of women." Our business grew stronger and our reputation spread further. Fatty asked me more than once, "Do you regret keeping a female ghost by your side?" I looked inside at the red-clad figure directing the mouse spirit to pour her tea, giggling while watching TV. Regret? I don't know, I only know. Grandpa said, "The Chen family's craft is to revere ghosts and spirits, to balance yin and yang." Perhaps this is true balance, not destruction, not suppression, but finding a way for both sides to live well in this world. As for whether she and I are siblings, partners, or something else, who knows? Anyway, our story is still very long.